Comet. It's been a while since I've done a video on this. I shot little chunks of video as I was doing things, and mostly I've been gathering parts. The only thing I really did was mock up this engine in the engine bay. Actually, the jack is sagged a little bit, so it's gonna sit something like that in the engine bay. I'd actually like it a little bit lower, but it's gonna work. This was a block I picked up for mock-up. At the end, after I get done rambling, you'll see some video. I'll toss in what I shot. But yeah, this is a block I picked up for mock-up. First set of motor mounts I bought for it, I did not like. They were, I don't know, whatever you call that, zinc plated, anodized, something like that. So anyways, don't have motor mounts on it yet. And yeah, so I did try hanging the brake booster that I've got. I believe that's a 9-inch booster. I'm gonna try and find a 7-inch because that's not gonna clear the engine. That, or I'll have to go hydro boost. One of the things I picked up recently was the long tube headers. These are stainless steel long tube headers. Yeah, they're used, but they were only $100 for a set, and they seem to fit just fine. I think they're going to work out okay. Worst case, they might be a little bit short, and I might have to extend them just a touch. But I don't think that's going to be an issue at all. Let's see. So this block came out of an 04 Yukon, and it's no good because of the cam bearing journals are chewed out of it. This came out of an 01 Silverado. It's a 4.8, which I kind of feel like is perfect because the car came with a 2.4, so a 4.8 is double that, so that's kind of neat. And also, I do care about gas mileage a little bit, so 4.8 is going to get better gas mileage. And I can always toss a turbo on there if I need more power, but I don't think I will. Before it goes in, I'm going to put in a Truck Norris cam, including the springs. I wanted, have a cam stage 2, I think it was listed as, so it will need springs, so I'll be changing the valve springs. So I've got a wiring harness for it. It's kind of in this bucket. It's not in great shape, but it'll do. Here's a bunch of cut wires that I don't appreciate, and he was screwing with the computer connectors and left the red and blue plastic off of them, so that's great. Didn't notice that till I got home. It kind of pissed me off, but whatever. So it's got all the connectors I need for the plugs. If I even use the factory ECM, I'll probably go with a standalone. I'd really like to have a Holley Terminator X, but I don't see me going that far. And then I bought this today. This is a CD001, or actually it says CDO number 1 on here. But anyways, same as CD009, except a different shifter mount. This is out of a 350Z. It is a 6-speed manual transmission that can take 1,000 horsepower. And they make a lot of adapters to hook this up to an LS. I guess the Z-Car guys love to throw LSs in place of their nasty sounding V6s. But one of them, you cut the bell housing right along this line, cut it off because it's not an unboltable bell housing, and then you bolt an adapter plate in place of this bearing plate right here. So there's like 20 bolts around the perimeter there. And then you use, surprisingly enough, a 4L60 bell housing, the automatic bell housing onto that plate. I'm leaning a different direction. There's another company that has a adapter plate that goes out here, and they sell it with a lightened aluminum flywheel and such. So that's kind of the route I want to go. I think it'll just it'll be nice because this transmission won't be modified, and it'll be easier to, it leaves me more options. I can always modify it later, but I think that the way they describe that is really, it sounds like they put a lot of engineering into it, getting it square and centered and everything. So not that the other one wouldn't be centered, but I like this one. I like the lightened aluminum flywheel is what I really like. Anyways, I'm kind of rambling. What else have we gotten? Obviously, I got this is the engine, yeah. It didn't come with any coil packs. The wiring harness came with one. I found somebody's, and the wiring harness came with the intake manifold, which was the big thing I needed. When I went and got more parts, I got a second intake manifold, but one of the runners has melted internally and collapsed in on itself. I'm thinking it had a very, very bad valve, and it was sending fire up that port. So this intake manifold is no good other than for sensors and stuff that I'll pull off of it. But let's see, back here, I got an AC compressor, I got the alternator, I got all the brackets to hang everything, I got a starter, I got 2 more coil pack assemblies, so I got a power steering pump. Right now the car doesn't have power steering, but if I do end up going with hydro brakes, I probably will go with power steering. I got another, that's the pulley for the power steering. Okay, yeah, so got tensioner brackets. So I got everything I'm going to need on the front of the engine. Also got more injectors. The guy with the wiring harness gave me fuel rails and injectors, but he was missing like 3 injectors from it. So this one came with all 8, but that one that got damaged is probably going to give me or that runner that got melted, probably not a good injector. So I'll mix and match. So I went and tried to buy a rear end for this, Ford 8.8 out of a Ford Explorer, because they're good gear ratios, usually 373 or even 350 or something like that, 358. And they've always got limited slip, or at least most of them do, and I would only buy one with limited slip. And they've already got disc brakes, and they've got the bolt pattern that I need to match the tires that I bought. So it's like win-win-win. The width will have to be adjusted, but that's going to happen with any rear end I buy for this. So anyways, I went out to buy one, and when we got under the car, it turned out it was a later Explorer that had independent rear suspension. I'm like, I can't use this at all. I'm not converting my car to IRS. So canned that one, but there's plenty of more of them out there. Average going rate is about $250. So spent $600 on the transmission, on this transmission, and that was a fight. Everybody on Facebook Marketplace was flaking out on me when trying to buy this transmission. Had one guy disappear for a week and then come back and wanted more money for his transmission. I'm like, dude, get bent. I can't put this on the engine until I buy the bell housing adapter. It's $1,300. So just to let you guys know, my rough budget per month is about $600 going into this car. So, and that's being rather generous. It's while I've got the funds to do that level of investment in the car. So because of that, next month I'm going to buy the rear end and probably motor mounts and a couple other miscellaneous little things that I need. And then I'm going to have to wait two months or so to buy the bell housing adapter. So bell housing adapter, flywheel starter combo. Once I finally have these two bolted together, and even then, I've got another, the camshaft adapter, or the Truck Norris cam and the lifters and the springs and everything. That's $700 right there. So that's another month. So my current ETA for getting this on the road is early next spring, if not late next spring. So I will shoot video when I'm doing stuff on the car, but for the most part, I'm not doing stuff on the car while I'm gathering parts and just waiting for time to pass so that I can afford to buy more parts. I do have the wiring harness I can work on, but I kind of want to wait and see where I go with all the stuff I get. I'm going to have to cut out some of the firewall for the transmission to clear, because I want this engine that far back. God, it looks stupid leaning over like that. Anyways, but yeah, this is all going to work out. Once I get the rear end, the 4-link adapter setup that I want is another $600. It's going to be parallel 4-link with a Watts link in the middle, so it's going to be a lot like what they put in the Crown Vics. I really like that setup versus you never see a Crown Vic plow into a crowd of onlookers like you do Mustangs. I don't want the Mustang 4-link setup. Call me paranoid, but yeah, that one is proven to not be reliable in my opinion. So I will go with the Crown Vic style. Yeah, so slowly gathering parts, you know, buying a lot of this off marketplace. This engine was $400, so that was a killer deal. The wiring harness was $100, and I think I paid too much for the, you know, the accessories and this worthless intake manifold that I didn't really need in the first place. But I've got it now, and I won't have to worry about it again. This water pump is brand new, so I won't have to replace that. One thing I noticed is my valve covers. I don't have one with an oil fill. I noticed that this one's painted, that's painted, and this one's not. I think they took the one that was supposed to have the oil fill right here. Unless this tiny hole is the oil fill hole. I don't think so. I think that's supposed to be a PCV valve, and it's supposed to be on this side in place of that little opening right there. So I don't know. Anyways, enjoy the little bit of video I'm going to toss in here after this. Of tossing the engine in there and stuff, and we'll go from there. Subscribe, and you probably want to ring that bell, because I'm not going to be doing this on a regular schedule, and when I do something, you don't want to miss it, because it's been so long. The little bell will send you a reminder saying, hey, one man's got a new video. So thanks. This is the profile of the oil pan, at least the one that came with it from a Tahoe. It looks pretty good because it puts the sump really far back. And it's got a very high area up here, which, you know, if this can be, you know, half an inch from the oil pan and it kind of continues to taper up, or at least if this is, you know, a finger's width away from the steering rack and it continues to taper down, I got plenty of room to come down some. So that's actually really great for what I'm going to do. And I was measuring the lowest points down there. It's 19 inches wide. Or no, it's 22 inches wide, and then I've subtracted about 3 for that steering rack, so I got about 19. Actually, if you subtract 6, because you got 3 on each side, because you need to be centered, it's still 16. And, you know, the motor mounts go on the block right here, and then they're going to come straight down. So I figure about the center here. So I measured from about the center of that one to about the center of this one, and we got 15 inches. So this is really going to work really, really well. And that's assuming that I couldn't just like tuck the mount under the steering on both sides. And of course the engine gets wider up above, but so does the engine bay. So it's really not going to be any problem fitting a big old engine in here. See, we've got this V-shaped engine bay. And people have been putting V8s in these even when they had the shock towers in here, and I don't have shock towers, so it's going to fit so well. Yeah, I just got to get this hung from my engine crane, engine hoist, whatever you want to call them, in a way that keeps the engine level, and then we can get in there and set it in place and kind of get an idea. I haven't got the mounts yet, but once I do, those are going to go fast. I'm going to get them in quick. It's going to be awesome. I really need to get myself a new tripod. This one's giving me so much trouble. Anyways, I figure, I don't have the motor mounts yet, but I figure I can lower it in there and do some test fitting. Yeah, she's looking pretty good. Here we go. I'm going to pull the crane out of the garage to get that out. These bolts out of the back. And yes, I stuck SAE parts with a metric block. SAE bolts. The threads were close enough to get it. I don't think the reach on this crane is long enough to easily put it where I want it to be. But let's see. I don't know what I would do to fix that. So I just have to work much with what I can do. Luckily, the car is so far up that it's clearing the crane. Anyways, okay, we're all the way up against the bumper. I suppose I could take the bumper off, but I don't think I can take. Then there's a little bit. I could get all the way up to the frame number, but I would rather just put a longer piece here, sacrifice the strength of my crane. That's going to be the biggest problem with me getting this as far back and stuff as I want. Because right now, I want to move the camera so that you guys might be able to see. So right now the oil pan's going to come down right on that, but you can see how, well, I could get the tape measure and do some measurements. Alright, so we have got, at least 8 inches to the firewall. So 8 inches forward of there. Oh yeah, there's lots of room down there for this engine. So this is going to go 8 inches farther back somehow, some way. I'm going to stick my jack under there and put the engine on the jack. Let's try that. It's in. You can see I stuck some bars of metal in there to help maneuver the engine around. But yeah, let's pull that out. Anyways, so there she is. At about 5 inches to the closest edge of the block from here to there. And same on the other side. I pulled it forward to the firewall just enough that the head should clear. I don't know what's on the back of the heads, if there's anything back there that needs to, but I can perfectly easily relocate these. These are just going through holes, so they can go into the firewall anywhere. I can find their bolts inside. I will keep heating this thing. Let's see. So she's good and low in the engine bay. I mean, she is down there. Granted, there's going to be stuff on top of the engine, but there's plenty of room for that. It is currently sitting, let's see if you can see this, it's sitting on the steering rack, so obviously it's going to come up 3/4 inch or more from that, well, 1/2 inch or more from that, and the oil pan sump is being supported by the jack, mostly because my crane won't reach deep enough. So that's kind of a bit of a showstopper for me with the crane. But now that I've got it down in this hole, I can work with this position to make the motor mounts. Obviously not all of the weight of the engine is on the car because we are still supporting it with the jack. But once I get the motor mounts, we can transfer the weight over. Okay, so the mounts come down right here. There's the 4 bolts for the mount, which is directly above the frame rail. It's like this engine was designed for a Mustang too. This side's going to be closer to the steering rack, but I'm sure I can work that. There's no big deal there. Yeah. I'm glad I got this engine for mock-up. The mounts are really cheap. I just have to get around to ordering them. And then I got to wait for them to arrive. And they'll be real quick to weld in, solder. Real quick to weld those in. And then I can find the real engine. I still have to track down a transmission. It may be too close right here for I mean, there's not much for bell housing right there, so I do expect that I will have to chop up the firewall and scoot it up and back a little bit. I'm okay with that. I really am. So we'll do that when we have to. I realized I wasn't filming any of this. I was just kind of tinkering around. Anyways, this is where the factory master cylinder used to go, and the unboosted version that I had bolted right up to that. That might have needed to be boosted, but it didn't come with a booster. Anyways, it had 2 bolts above it, and as I suspected, these 4 held the pedal cluster in. So let's pop inside the car, and I'll show you. All right. That's where it went. Some causing shadows. There we go. So it went up there, and that's where the steering column would go through. And here's the pedal cluster. It dropped down because, you know, the front of it's held into the steering column and the back of it was with those 4 bolts, so it just came right out. So the holes for the booster are going to use the top holes that weren't previously used, and they need to be spread out a little bit. So I'm gonna probably take my carbide bit and hollow this out because it only needed a couple of millimeters on each side. And these bottom ones, I will just get a fairly flush bolt and put it in to help hold this in place. I won't have these captured nuts anymore. I'll do something else, probably a normal nut, you know. Well, it'll have to be a normal nut because the bolts coming out of the booster are studs. Here, let's go to that next. And we've seen everything inside. So yeah, these are studs, so I can't remove them. And they need to go in without, you know, captured nuts. I need to make 2 bottom holes, so they're going to be, you know, roughly here and here. These are just slightly too narrow, so I'm gonna drill them bigger, and it should be enough. So I've got a drill bit around here somewhere. It probably fell on the ground. So, anyways, let me put this in the tripod, and you guys can watch me drill these holes. Low speed. Do what I can to avoid those holes. And let's see if it fits now. Yes, they fit. Just barely. That will. Anyways, the next 2 holes, measure this. So they need to be about 98.5 millimeters down. So from top to very bottom. All right. I don't have a center punch handy, so this is what I'll use. That didn't leave a mark. Right there. Okay, and same thing here. Go down. Towards the outside of this hole. There we go. I've got a mark at least. Man, I love unibits and sheet metal. There we go. Problem I see is that's going to be too close to the engine. We got a head on here and a valve cover. Yeah. Alrighty. Let's put some bolts in that so it'll stay on. It's not going to fall out of the hole now. This engine's going to be here, maybe even a little bit higher. So let me bring you in to see. And I've got a tape measure around here somewhere. No, maybe not. Okay, well, whatever. So we've got some space here, but not much. That hole in the firewall is where the throttle linkage used to come through. So like if I brought the engine forward some, I'd have to bring it forward a lot to clear this, and like half of this cylinder needs to be the back of the head, which I don't want. I like the engine this far and back. It's got to come up another ½ inch because I'm still haven't hung it on the motor mounts, and it's sitting on the steering rack, so it needs to not sit on the steering rack. Well, maybe I can find a smaller booster that'll take up less space.